So y'all have to give me a thumbs up or someone unmute themselves if you don't mind. I think I see it. Yeah.
Everyone else sees
We see it.
Okay. Okay, thank y'all. The floor is all yours. Thanks, Sabriana.
No, thank you all. Again, apologies. Thank you all so much for your patience. I won't waste any more time now that we've got the technical difficulty piece out of the way. Let's just go ahead and get started. Are you Common App ready? Next slide. So this is the team. We are a small but mighty team, and we're definitely growing. This is the student engagement side of our student success team as a whole. We make up about 8. You'll see me in the bottom left corner. I currently serve as the program manager for student and family engagement. Super happy to be here. To give this presentation to you all, let you all know what kind of resources, information is available to you on our website, as well as a bit of information on how to fill out some of the sections that might be a little bit tedious or confusing, and then answer any questions before letting you all enjoy the rest of your evening. Next slide. So you all have given me a bit of information on what excites you about going to college. Again, I'll say all of those are great answers. Starting something new, pursuing a passion, figuring out what skills or things you'll need to learn as you're navigating this new chapter of maybe being on your own. So as you'll see here, we'll cover a few things: the Common App community, who we are, how you all should approach the application, and what tools you can use as you navigate that process. And then again, I'll answer any questions that you have at the end. Next slide. So starting with that Common App community. So next slide. We are an online application, right? Our goal is to make applying to college easy. There's a lot of different ways that you can apply to college. You can, of course, go to different school websites and apply to every school or every institution individually. Common App understands that the process is a bit tedious, and that a lot of institutions or a lot of colleges and universities ask for the same information, right? Everyone wants to know what you've done in high school. Everyone wants some sort of writing sample or essay. They want to know maybe why you chose their college, right? So Common App makes it easy and allows you to use one platform to apply to lots of colleges, universities. We have a membership of over 1,000 colleges, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. Next slide. So a lot of students use Common App, over 1 million students. And we're really happy and excited to say that 1/3 of those students do identify as first generation. So I know there may be a bit of a perception about Common App of only a certain type of student or student from certain backgrounds can or should be using our application. And we're just here to say that anyone can use our application. If you're intending to pursue a post-secondary pathway, if you want to go to college, if you're transferring from one institution to another, Common App is a seamless and easy way to apply to those institutions. Next slide. So you'll see here again, we have a lot of institutions that we call members. So again, there might be a perception or a thought that Common App only has certain institutions on our platform, and that you can apply to any institution, but it's more so the Ivy Leagues or the harder schools to get into, right? We have all types of members. 1/3 of our members are coming from or have a public institution. More than half of them do not charge an application fee for domestic students if they apply or if they qualify for a fee waiver. We do have international members, and all 50 states and territories are recommended. They're all represented in our membership. So there's a lot of different options for students. I think the bigger thing is finding which institution is best for you, what fits you, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Next slide. So this is a place that I think is a great place to start on our website. Students, I mentioned having your phone ready. This is probably one of the best slides or the first slides I'll have you take a picture of. that link in the bottom left-hand corner, commonapp.org/explore. So maybe you want to go to college, you don't know what type of institution you're looking for, or maybe you do know what you're looking for in an institution, but you don't know which institutions fit that criteria, right? You're like, I know that I want this, I know I want that, I know I want a big school, I know I want a school that's in this part of the town or this part of the city or state. Maybe they have these types of majors, or maybe you don't know those things. Common App Explorer page will definitely allow you to do your research, and it'll allow you to craft your college list prior to applying. Again, making sure that the schools on your list have what you want or need in that institution, right? Again, do you want a big school or a small school? Do you need an institution that offers some sort of financial aid, whether it be merit-based, based on your grades, or whether it's need-based, based on how much income your family has, right? Whether or not a school is test optional, and how they will allow you to navigate that application process, or these are some of the things you'll find on the Explore Colleges page. Next slide. So going into the fit piece, right? So after going through the Explore Colleges page, and maybe even a bit before, again, as you're figuring out what you want in an institution, we have created what's called our Reach Pathfinder, and we have this cheat sheet for students so that they know what to think about when they're picking an institution, right? I'll be honest and say that if I were going through this process again, I would probably pick or look at schools with a different lens than I did when I was looking at colleges and universities. I will say that having some kind of cheat sheet like the Pathfinder would have worked wonders for me. So we definitely created it to, again, assist students through specifically the initial part of the process, which is exploring and researching colleges to find those that might be the best fit for you. Next slide. So students, you can take a picture of this if you would like. I would suggest it just so you can have everything in one place. In a few slides, I'll actually have a QR code so you can get the full Pathfinder. It is a few pages, but this is, again, just kind of the overarching piece of it. So the Reach Pathfinder, you'll see here that every letter stands for something: research, explore, apply, confirm, and hone. So it's really just walking you through the research piece. What kind of things are you looking for in an institution? What academic level or rigor do you want the institution to have? Do they have your major, right? Will it allow you to pursue the career that you want to pursue? Is it a financial aid match? Like, is it going to, are you going to be able to afford the institution, right? The explore piece. So maybe you're a first generation student. Maybe neither of your parents, no one in your family has gone and graduated and gotten a bachelor's degree, and you would like a school that is going to have additional support or information or resources, or quite frankly, maybe just a community of other students like you that will assist you and support you as you navigate that process. Of course, you have to apply, right? The A being apply, whether it's submitting recommendation letters, getting transcripts from a counselor, submitting some type of financial aid application, understanding maybe the differences between early action versus early decision and regular decision, what those mean and how you can take advantage of the different types of applications based on what your goals are. After you apply, you're going to do some confirming, right? You're going to make sure that what you want in an institution is the institution that you're choosing. You're going to look at your budget, maybe communicate and talk to the financial aid office to ensure, again, that you have the funds, or at least there are ways for you to pay for school. You're going to attend orientation, make sure that you have everything set up for that first day, first week of classes. And then the H is hone, right? You're on campus, you're figuring out what this new life looks like for you. As many of you all have mentioned, that's something you're excited about. So how do you get involved on campus? How do you navigate this new academic space and stay organized in that way? How do you engage with your peers as well as the other faculty and staff on campus? So a lot of great information in this Pathfinder. I wanted to kind of go through each letter because there's a lot of information here that helps students, again, not only as they're figuring out what their post-secondary plans may be, but as they navigate it and even when they get to that campus. Next slide. So a big part of doing your research is finding a place or a way to record that information, right? It's not good if you just kind of keep it all in your head and you're trying to remember how each institution that you're applying to is a bit different, or what this school offers versus this school. We definitely recommend putting that down somewhere, whether it be on paper, on a spreadsheet, in a workbook. Maybe your counseling community has different types of resources for you all to use and tap into. Maybe you're just like, everything, I have everything on my phone. I'm always have my phone on me. Maybe it's just best to keep things in your notes section, right? The thing is, whatever works best for you, find that out. I think it's best to do that earlier rather than later. And then again, keep all that information in one place. So as you're going through this process, as you're making your decisions, you have all the information right in front of you. And then you're a lot more confident as you're making this decision and going into the next step. Next slide. So these are two of the QR codes that I was mentioning at the beginning. So on the left-hand side, you'll see a way for you to sign up for our Reach Higher newsletter. So we'll have some information. We do a lot of linking to our social media posts, just in case you missed it. You know how the algorithm can just kind of flip and switch and do its own thing nowadays. So maybe you missed an Instagram post or a Twitter post, but you want to make sure that you're learning about the different resources or ways that Reach Higher and Common App are working together to get you or even your student through this process. And then that right side, that QR code is, again, the Pathfinder in detail. So what was it, 2 slides ago when you saw the reach and the different things that they all stood for, you'll find that page, but you'll also see each letter in more detail and what the different steps are and how you can kind of cross every letter off your list to be more confident and comfortable as you're going to your college campus. Next slide.
Sorry, 1 second. I'm just gonna give the students in person a minute to take a picture. Thanks. I think, is everybody good? Okay.
And we can always go back if you, at the end of the presentation, if you all want to, but definitely want to give you time to take pictures, because there'll be some other too. Perfect.
Yes, I think they're all good. Thank you for that.
Alrighty, so now, like I mentioned, if you do have your application or your account open, it might help for you to pull that up and kind of see your screen versus this template screen. Or it might just be best for you to take pictures. Please do whatever works for you. If we need to take a minute on a slide for you all to see something, take a picture, compare it to your own screen, perfectly fine. Just let us know. Next slide. So this is where you will apply. So commonapp.org, super simple. This is what you will see when you get to that link. If you already have an account, you will click the white button that says login in the kind of upper right-hand corner. You'll put your information in and you'll be logged into your account. If you do not yet have an account, that is perfectly fine. You will do the create an account button there in the upper right-hand corner. I'll take a moment to stop here. Maybe for those of you who are logging in or maybe creating an account, getting that process started. I will say that it is best to use an email address that you're going to have access to after college or after high school graduation, right? This is going to be the email that colleges and universities are going to be communicating with you with. So make sure that you're checking this email regularly, that you're finding a way to stay organized, because again, this is the email address that you're using on applications. This is how they're going to be corresponding with you. And if you need to submit something maybe after high school graduation, maybe a final transcript or something of that sort, you want to make sure that you have access to that email address and any emails that you receive. So I just want to flag that for those who might be using a school email. And then of course, use an email that is as professional as possible. None of the, you might want to make a new email so that it's just a little bit more professional and it shows you in a positive and mature light. Next slide. So I'm going to go through a few of the sections that might be a little bit tedious, or sections that students and counselors have more questions on. So the standardized test section is one that we get a lot of questions, whether it's student solution support or just those of us on the road. This is something that is important because not all institutions, as many of us know, will require an SAT or even an ACT score. I believe if you click the next, act like you're going to the next slide, something else should pop up for you all. Yes, so again, you saw that we have just under 1,100 member colleges that use the Common App. Over 950 of them do not require an SAT or ACT score. So maybe you have an SAT or ACT score, but you're not too excited about it, right? You're like, I'm going to keep this one to myself. No one needs to know about this. That's okay. That happens. COVID was a real thing. And maybe you feel that that test score doesn't fully demonstrate your academic abilities. You do not have to share that information, right? Colleges and universities now a lot of them are doing what's called test optional, as you know, so they can and will make a decision with or without that score if necessary. If you do decide to share that information, you will indicate that on this section or in this section, and then of course you will need to get with ACT or College Board, or if it's an AP exam, a CLEP exam, whatever it is, you'll need to get with that institution or that entity and send it over to the institution that you said you were going to send it to. So again, just reminder, kind of debunking a myth about the schools that use Common App. Not all of them are going to require super high test scores. Not all of them are going to require a test score at all. Next slide. And I think if you click twice on this one, another thing will pop up as well. Here we go. So the activity section, this is a part or a portion that students are, oh wait, I think go back one more. There you go, right there. The activity section, so this is where you will put, maybe you're involved in things after school. Maybe you do a lot of community service. Maybe you volunteer. Maybe you have a job, right? I worked in high school, and this is where I put that information. I played sports in high school. This is where I put that information. But we also want to highlight that maybe you have family responsibilities that exempt you or that take you out of the possibility of doing or having extracurricular activities. We want the institution to know what you're doing outside of the classroom so that they can make a sound decision on your and in terms of your admissions based on a clear picture of what you're doing and most importantly what you have abilities to do, like what you're capable of doing in terms of time. Again, sometimes we have students who don't think that the family responsibilities matter, but it's outside of the classroom and it's something that you're spending your time on, and an institution wants to know that. Okay, you can report up to 10 activities. So we get a lot of questions of, should I do the ones that matter the most to me? Should I do the ones that I've spent the most time on? Should I do the ones maybe that I'm pursuing in college? It kind of depends, I'll say. I think, of course, maybe the ones that you spend a lot of time on, those are usually the ones that you hold near and dear to your heart, right? Maybe that might also be something or a club that you wish to continue when you go on to college. Put those types of things there. And I believe in some applications, it will also ask you, do you wish to continue participating in these types of activities when you get to this campus or this institution? Go ahead and let the college or university know that, even if you're unsure. But this is where you would put all of that information. Again, you have up to 10 activities. If you have any questions, you can always contact our support team, which will have additional information at the end, or a counselor at your high school. Next slide. The writing section. Take a picture of this slide so that you can see that link in the bottom left corner where you'll be able to go and see what the essay prompts are. I'll say the essay prompts have not changed. in a while, and they will stay the same for this application cycle. You will have 7 different essay prompts to choose from. You'll see the essay prompt topics there. I will say this is really just a way and a space for an institution, for an admissions counselor to know more about you, right? Your application is a lot of, at times, a lot of quantitative information, right? It's your grades, it's how many hours you spent on an activity, but they don't always get to know who you are as a person, right? How you've grown through your high school years, how you've faced adversity and overcome those things, and how those things have made you who you are today, and how you plan to continue those things in college. This is when you can put all that information down. You do have a 650 word limit, and I will say a great way to kind of integrate information from one platform to another is using Google Drive. As many of us know, Google Drive, you can edit it from anywhere. You can add things into it from different devices. So I think it's a good place to start your essays, because you can be working on it anytime. Sometimes you're doing something completely different, and you get an idea or a thought or brainstorm on an essay. So I think using Google Drive is a great place to get started. And then again, you can use that content and just push it over into your college application or into the essay portion of your application. Next slide. So navigating the application. So once you've gone through the Explore Colleges piece, you've maybe looked at that Pathfinder and you know, okay, this is what I'm looking for in an institution. And again, after you've done the Explore page, you can see which institutions on our platform match up with what you're looking for. You'll add those colleges, you'll add those institutions to what's called your My College list. When you do that, you'll be able to see a lot of information for the institution. So you'll be able to see, as you can see, contact information. Maybe you have a question and you need to give them a call. Maybe you need to send an email. Maybe you need to send a transcript by paper. You might be like, who does that anymore? Believe it happens. Some schools prefer things by paper. So you'll have the address there. You'll be able to get a virtual tour, maybe look at the college website and learn more information. But I think the biggest thing here in this My Colleges tab, 2 things actually. One is the application deadline, right? Every institution has different deadlines, whether it's the fall semester, whether it's early action or early decision. Some institutions have early deadlines, whereas others may have what's called rolling admission, and maybe they're accepting applications until February. This My Colleges piece, or this tab, is super important to help you stay on track. If you know when something is due, you know how long you have, you know what you need to do. You'll see on the left-hand side there, you will also see what is required for that institution. Maybe they have their own set of questions. Maybe you have to have a certain number of recommendations, and they have to be from a specific teacher or a specific counselor, which I'll get to on the next slide. This My Colleges tab, I don't think I can really stress how important it is. Students, make sure to, as soon as you add a school to your My Colleges list, take a look at this tab. Again, so you can stay on top of your deadlines and make sure you're not missing out on any really good admission opportunities or even scholarship opportunities. Next slide. I think one more and then it'll be the recommenders. Sorry, we've gotten some animation going on in the presentation. So I mentioned different recommender types, right? On that My Colleges tab, it will let you know if you needed a recommendation from a counselor, from a teacher, if they allow or accept other recommenders to submit an application on your behalf. Students, I would suggest taking a picture of this slide because it will better detail the different roles, right, for each person. So your high school counselor is a specific person. They are going to be the only person that can complete specific school forms, and they will be the person that is responsible for sending your transcript to an institution, right? So maybe you submitted your application and you're looking at your status status and you're wondering, okay, why is my transcript not been sent? Or maybe it's an incomplete transcript. You will know exactly who to go to inquire about that. And maybe you left something off. Maybe there's something you need to submit in order for your counselor to do that. Maybe it's a FERPA or some type of form. You'll know who to go to. You'll see here that about 40% of Common App institutions will require a letter of recommendation specifically from the counselor, okay? And then that last bullet point, you'll see again that with specific permissions on the student side, the counselor will be able to see the status of a student's application. Maybe they'll get a copy of the PDF, again, just to ensure that the student has submitted all parts of the application. Teachers, I won't go into too much detail there. There are some institutions that will require a letter of recommendation specifically from a teacher because they want to know, like, what type of student, what type of learner is this person, is this student? What are they like in the classroom, right? I'm only going to highlight this other recommender piece because a lot of times students aren't sure who that person is. So again, I think it's good to maybe take a picture of this just so you know possibilities or possible people that you can ask. So that other recommender, it is going to be an optional thing. And sometimes if you feel your application would be stronger with one more letter of recommendation, it might not hurt to ask someone else, right? Maybe it's a soccer coach. Maybe it is someone at your church. Maybe it's a boss or a manager or supervisor who can speak to you as a person, speak to your hard work, your dedication, can speak to you or your character in a way that will, again, amplify or increase your chances of getting into an institution. Next slide. Alrighty, so next we'll get into a few of the tools you can use to assist you as you navigate the college admissions process, but of course, specifically the Common App application. Next slide. So if you didn't know, Common App does, go back one for me, please. If you didn't know, Common App has a mobile application. Back one more, I think, wait, back two more. Wait, hold on. Go, yes, back one more, and then one more, mobile app. There we go. So you'll see that Common App does have a mobile application for you to use. You can use it just as easily as you would the desktop or as you would on your computer or laptop, right? Everything is the same. You can still do research. You can still see information and tools, but it is going to allow you to maybe do some work, again, in a place where you might not be able to do work if you only had a laptop. So just wanted to put that out there for students that you can also use our mobile app. Next slide. So our video tutorials. You'll see here, it might be another picture that you want to take. That link in the bottom left-hand corner, youtube.com/commonappmedia/videos. If you remember the slide of the team, one of these members should look familiar. Amani there in the white shirt will be the one that will walk you all through the application for first-year students. So again, if you are a high school senior, which it seems like many of us in the room and in the virtual space are, you can go and look for that video, and Amani will walk you through the different steps of the application, like literally page by page. We'll also, on our YouTube page, have a bit of information on breaking down those Common App essay prompts, right? So how do I get started on my essay? What are some things that I should include? What exactly is this prompt asking? You'll see Jen and Emma there answering those questions. And then also Jen and Emma are also there at answering any Common App questions that you have in that just virtual video format. We'll also have a section like a FAQ page, which I'll get to later on in the presentation. But again, maybe you are a visual learner and you kind of want to hear it and see it. We have some video pages or videos on YouTube for you to look at as well. Next slide. So as you're submitting your application, specifically when you get to the fee waiver section, you have the opportunity, the ability to tap into an additional resource, right? So we know that you're in high school. Looks like the Phoenix Public Library also has some great resources and people that can assist you through this process, but maybe you need even more. You can always connect with UStrive mentorship. So again, this is just a little question as you're filling out the fee waiver section, really just asking if you want additional support through the process. If you do, again, going back to that email, the email that you use on the application, they will contact you there and let you know the different resources that they have, the different people that can assist you and support you. They are trained volunteer mentors. They provide secure and safe information. They're not going to sell your information to anyone. But again, just another resource for you as you're navigating this college application process. Next slide. So some planning resources, another picture or another slide that I would definitely take a picture of. Maybe you have started the planning process, but you need a bit of a refresher. You're like, okay, I've gotten to this space or this spot in the process, but I don't know exactly what to do next, right? Or maybe you haven't gotten started and you don't know where to start. This is a great place to go. commonapp.org/plan. So if you are not too much sold on why college matters or the benefits of attending college and getting a degree, we have information for you there. Of course, we have students that are concerned with, okay, I understand that college is important and I know that it's a path that I want to pursue, but big question is, how am I going to pay for it, right? We have a paying for college page with information, with resources that we connect you to, scholarships that you can apply for, and again, just different avenues on how to get that done and answer that question of how are you going to pay for it. We'll have different types of roadmaps, definitely like the Pathfinder that you'll see. Maybe you have a younger sibling that is maybe a junior or they're in middle school and they're trying to figure out how do they start thinking about this process? What does that look like for them? We have information there. Again, we also have not just the first year application, but the transfer application. So if you have a sibling or a friend who is currently attending a community college but has dreams or aspirations of transferring to a four-year institution, they can apply using Common App, and we have information and resources to assist them through that as well. Military students often get left out or don't get as much information as resources. We have people dedicated to helping that community as well, whether they're trying to get back into school or whether they're, again, trying to pursue it during or after serving. As the program manager for student family engagement, family resources are very important. We understand that a lot of times this is a family decision, right? Going off to college, picking an institution, just looking at what that post-secondary path looks like. Yes, it's a personal and it's very much an individual decision, but it's usually one that the family makes together, right? And how do students incorporate their parents or their family members into that? How do family members and parents assume those roles and assist and support their student through that process? We have information on that. And then, of course, if students or recommenders are wondering how they can better support their students, how they can write better letters of recommendations, what are things that they should or shouldn't include, we'll have information all there in the planning section of our website. Next slide. Maybe I think you can press it one more and then another picture will come up. So this is our Common App Ready. This is a really great resource, and we're continuing to build these out. We're updating them just to include a lot more information and just make sure that we are giving students everything they need to get through our application. So again, we're starting with things like, what is Common App, and like, how does the first year application work? What are some of the terminology, or what are some of the words I'm going to see as I'm navigating this college application process? We give you a dictionary so that you're not as lost as you're hearing and seeing some of these new terms. How to tell your story, right? How to get started on that essay. Again, I can't stress enough the paying for college page with all the new FAFSA coming, and just students being more concerned with how are they going to pay for their degree. We've seen a lot of upticks in visits to this page. So again, common-app.org/ready has a lot of great resources and tools for your students. Next slide. So I mentioned a few slides ago, of course, talking about our YouTube videos, and if you want assistance or support walking through specific pages of the application, but maybe you don't need help with a specific page, but you do have a question. We have a lot of different ways for you to contact us, chat with us, get your question answered. We have people that are literally here 24/7, ready to answer your questions and support you. So if you want to see if your question has already been answered, we of course have an FAQ, or frequently asked questions section. There are definitely, like, the recommender section, we have a lot of questions there. Sometimes the activity section, the My Colleges tab, and what is all shown there. We have a lot of FAQ information there, but maybe you have a question that's not listed there. You can always chat with us and someone will get back with you at their earliest convenience. I will say, take a picture of this slide as well, because those two links there at the bottom left, the appsupport.common-app.org, mainly is for the students, of course. We definitely have counselors who might need support with the app as well. But if your recommender or you as a counselor is having issues with the recommender side, we actually have one specifically for that. So the recsupport.common-app.org. So again, just another way for you to contact us, ask your questions. We are here to help you through this process. Next slide. So on to the fun part. So Better Make Room is the student-facing branch of Common App, right? This is where you'll get a lot of like fun social media stuff. You'll get all the cutest TikToks, but it's in, not only are we like trying to have fun and you know, do all the new things, but we're really trying to get to students as they're going through this journey. We're giving them resources that are going to help them. Maybe it's a scholarship resource and how they're going to pay for college. Maybe it's a tip on how to fill out a specific section or how to navigate a different step of the process. Sometimes it's just reminding students that they need to take a break, that it's okay, that this is all part of the journey. So on the next slide, we'll have, and I'll ask students to take a picture of this as well, all of our social media handles, whether it is Instagram, whether it's Facebook, X, TikTok. Again, YouTube is going to be a big resource for students. We're sharing everything, whether it's on Common App, whether it's on our Reach Higher pages, whether it's on our Better Make Room page. I know at the beginning we saw that you all have a lot of resources for students. We should definitely follow each other and share and highlight different information and resources for students. But feel free to follow us, engage with our posts. We're there. We are here to help you. Again, I can't say this enough, navigate this process. If you have questions, feel free to DM us. We get DMs all the time of students asking specific questions or maybe even giving suggestions on how we can improve something or make things easier for students to understand within the application. We're welcome to all the feedback and all the questions that you may have. So if you want to take a picture of this one as well, we'll pause here. Okay, and I will say the next slide is really asking if there are any questions. And maybe while you all are either typing a question in the chat or kind of just formulating it in your mind, if you want to go to the very last slide, I just want to highlight this page, this information again. Feel free to take a picture. Contact us anytime, any day of the year. We have people working all days of the year. You might not get an immediate response, of course, but you will definitely get a response in a timely manner. We are definitely here to help. I'll open it up for questions.
Hey, Brianna, we have an in-person question. Could you just repeat that one more time, Linnea? Just any tips? Okay, yeah. Could you provide our students with any tips that you may have, like in choosing one of the essay topics through the Common Application?
Good question. I will say, when you're figuring out which prompt to respond to, I first would kind of look at the different prompts and figure out which prompt allows you to share a different side of you that is not represented in another portion of your application, right? Sometimes, so I used to be an advisor working at a community-based organization, a local nonprofit, and sometimes a lot of students want to reiterate something, or they want to talk about their activities, right, in an essay. And I think that's great. But remember that there's already an activity section there laid out for you, right? So unless you're going into additional detail, unless you're giving a different perspective or lens on how that activity changed you or what it taught you or why you want to pursue it or how it aligns with your passions, again, try to find what I call holes in your application and find out how you can fill those holes. What is missing from your application? When you look at your application, what part of you do you feel is not being demonstrated to an admissions counselor? Go with that essay prompt. Of course, go with the essay prompt that you can write the most on, but of course, quality over quantity, right? If we have a 650 word limit, don't choose the essay that only gives you can only write 200 words, and after 200 words, you're like, that's all I got. I can't give anything else. Make sure, again, that you're just making, you're putting forth a different side of you in the application. You're giving all of it that you can. So if you go to 649 or 650 words exactly, that's okay. Yeah, I would say that's my answer. I hope that was good enough.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Of course.
Does anybody else in person have any questions?
I do
I
see.
think,
Go ahead. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
I think you have quite a few in the chat if you wanted to take a glance at those.
Yeah, so I'll read them out loud for those of us who might be in person and unable to see the chat. So the first question says, can reporting certain test scores hurt your chances of getting into a school, or does it only help? Good question. First and foremost, I want to say always contact and communicate with the admissions counselor at the institution that you're applying to, right? Every institution is going to be a little bit different, even those that have a test optional policy. Every institution kind of has authority and autonomy on what that looks like at their institution. If I can put a previous advising hat on, I would say that's part of the research, right? So if you Google a school and it says the average SAT score of an applicant that gets admitted is between this range and this range, and your SAT or ACT score in fact falls below that, it might not be a good idea for you to submit that application, right? Or not the application, I'm sorry. It might not be a good idea for you to submit that test score. Maybe you submit that application and you show them all the other reasons why you're a good applicant, right? All the other reasons why they should admit you. Because as we know, a test score isn't the only reason why students get admitted, and it's not the determining factor in whether or not a student is going to be successful or not at an institution. So that's part of the research. Again, it might even be just calling the institution and asking, what's the average SAT or ACT score of an admitted applicant? Looking at your SAT, ACT score and checking to see where you fall, and then making that decision whether or not you should submit it. I will also say on this question, sometimes you don't submit a test score for application consideration. So maybe not for do you get it admitted or denied to an institution, but you do send a test score maybe for a scholarship consideration. Sometimes institutions have institutional scholarships that are specific to their college or university, and they will have an SAT or SAT range that is different from the one that requires admission, if that makes sense. I hope that answered the question. If not, please always feel free to ask a second or clarifying question in the chat or ask me to clarify there. I'll move on to the second question. Again, I'll read it out loud for those of us who may not be able to see. So it says, I participated in a varsity sport in high school, which I reported in the Common App, but don't plan on playing competitively in college. However, I might be interested in a recreational team. Should I say that I intend to participate in a similar activity in college, or would selecting that imply that I plan to play competitively? So, a few things here that I'm going to say. Excuse me. I would report it on on your application. I think that was good. You know, you played at the varsity level. I imagine that was a lot of extra time, right? That's an extracurricular activity that took a lot of outside of the classroom time. So I would definitely put it on your application, even if you're not considering on playing competitively in college. Some applications will actually have another question at the bottom or a checkbox that says, you did this in high school, do you want to do it in college? You can always click yes. If you don't, it's still okay to share that you did that. Again, it will show them that you are committed to something, that you're a hard worker. And again, if there may be some discrepancies in your grades, or even if there's not, it'll show them the student handled their academics and they also were involved outside of the classroom. Hope that answers that question as well. The next question, where is the recommender section on the Common App? So unless you are the recommender, you won't be able to see the backside of that. You will simply fill out the information, putting that recommender's information in. So let's say I want to put my counselor's email and name information in the application so that they get the recommendation and email and all that information, and then they can submit it at their own time. You will simply see where it says what's the person's name, what's their email, are they a teacher, a counselor, etc. Last question from this person. If you are doing dual enrollment for a high school course with a community college, should I select that I have taken coursework at a college or university in the education section? Yes. So if you have dual credit, the institution that you're applying to is going to want to know, and your transcript will also say this, but again, I think it's also part of the application process is making sure that every section kind of adds up, quite frankly. So yes, if maybe you're taking dual credit English, right? You're taking English at the community college up the street. Indicate that in your application so that the institution that you're applying to knows that yes, you have a high school transcript, but you'll also need to submit a transcript from the community college or university that you're taking that specific class from. No worries. I love the question, so no need to apologize. I'm happy to be here and happy to help. Next question. So are counselors expected to upload a letter of recommendation? Can the same letter be used for a variety of submissions, scholarship grants, etc.? Great question. Yes, counselors will, First, great question. Second, it depends on the institution, right? So some institutions, I think the number was 40% may require a counselor letter of recommendation. And I'll say that might look different by institution, right? Some might require like an actual letter to be written. Some might just require a form to be filled out on the student. Yes, you can use the same letter for a variety of submissions, which I think is why we would suggest not to put, I recommend this student for this essay or this scholarship. I recommend a student for this specific institution, because if the student allows you to, if the student gives permission on their end, that recommendation letter can be used for multiple institutions. And of course, the last thing you want is for one institution to get a letter of recommendation with another institution's name on it. So yes, to answer your question, again, it might just help to leave off the name of the scholarship or the institution that the student is applying for. I will also say in the Common App Ready section, in our Common App Ready resources page, you will see resources for counselors on letters of recommendation, brag sheets, and things of that nature. So we try to, here at Common App, our thing, of course, is assisting and supporting students, but we're just as big as supporting and assisting those that help students. So hopefully you'll be able to find some resources on that page for you as well. But if not, send us a chat, send us an email, and we'll get with you on whatever you need help with. Where do I go to enter the information on the site? So let me see if I can go back to that slide. It will have like an invite teacher or an invite counselor page or button there when you're in your Common App account. I will say, if you are using, like if you're a SCOIR school, SCOIR, if you're a SCOIR school, they may have their own forms and you might not need to put the email address of that person, because there might be some other platform integrations there that allow the person to get that information, but you might just need to put the name and the subject or that information. It just kind of depends on if you're inviting a teacher or a counselor or another recommender. And then again, it might depend on any type of integrations that your high school has, whether it's SCOIR, Naviance, or something like that. I hope that answers that question. Can we see the letter, what the letter says before it is submitted? Great question. And I will say usually no. It depends on what your permissions are in your application, if you've really done the FERPA or not. I will say it kind of depends on high school. It kind of depends on the high school counselor. A lot of times counselors do not want a student to see what they have submitted on their behalf. For many reasons, right? They don't want students to go and share, oh, this is what this counselor said about me. Let's compare what it says about you, and things like that. I think if you don't share, if you don't sign the FERPA and allow that, some counselors won't write the letter of recommendation. Again, I think it kind of depends on the counselor, as well as what the institution requires on their end. I think I will say, in that vein, I will say two things. One, the counselor might be required to write a letter of recommendation, and it's not always going to be like what they think of you or how they view you as a student. Sometimes on the counselor recommender side, it really is, where does that student rank up, or how does that student fare academically compared to the rest of the graduating class, right? So sometimes it is just like kind of looking at a chart. In terms of letters of recommendation from a teacher, I think back when I was in the advising chair, I think that's just part of the student, that's on them, of choosing a teacher that is going to write a good recommendation letter, right? You don't necessarily need to know what it says if you know, and if you're choosing a teacher, a subject that you pay attention in, a subject that you're doing well in. Don't choose the teacher. Don't ask a teacher for a letter of recommendation if you're always late to their class, if you're never paying attention, if you're disrupting the class. So I think that hopefully, if you're a little concerned or worried or anxious about what a teacher or a counselor is going to say, hopefully just being a little bit more thoughtful on the front end of who you choose will mitigate some of those concerns. I hope that answered the question. Help the students identify where, what section of the Common App they can find the letter of recommendation. Let me see. I don't have my application logged in, but let me see. It should be on the, see if I can go back to that slide. The My Colleges tab. I can't find what slide that is. Check the My Colleges tab, and I can't find the page, the slide with the My Colleges. There, where it tells you what kind of recommendations you might need, it might say you have to have a counselor, like 2 counselor recommendation letters required, or an optional is required. Check to see if that's where it is. you should see there a button to invite teacher or other recommenders. And then it should be a pop-up that comes up where you can put in the email address. Again, if you're not maybe a SCORE school, and then you can insert the first and last name of that person, and then they should get everything. And then really you won't hear or see anything else about that letter of recommendation until it's been submitted. And then you'll see that under the My Colleges tab, you'll see that part has been completed. Please let me know if that helps. Another question, when should a student complete the Common App, and will the submissions happen automatically as deadlines approach for selected colleges? Great question. So first question is, when should a student complete the Common App? My suggestion is always as soon as possible, right? And when I say soon as possible, as soon as you can get a quality application in. It's not about who submits it first if the application doesn't look good or if it's not, a quality application. But I will also say, be mindful of the deadlines, right? So that My Colleges tab is going to give you, again, is there a regular decision deadline? If you're applying early action or early decision, what is that deadline and how do I make sure that I have everything I need prior to? With for example, the letters of recommendation. So another reason why you should, as soon as you add a college to your list, get started or take a look at that My Colleges tab, is because if an application is incomplete by the deadline or by the time that they say everything needs to be completed, if it's incomplete, the application will not be reviewed, right? So maybe you got everything you needed, but you as the student waited until the day before the application was due to submit or to ask someone or a teacher or counselor for a letter of recommendation, and they were unable to submit it in time, the application will simply be incomplete and won't be reviewed, right? So knowing when those deadlines are, having a calendar, whether it be digital or physical or a planner, whatever it is, and putting that information there so that you can ask for all of those things ahead of time. Because as soon as you press submit, the application is submitted. It might not be downloaded by the college until the next day or 2 days later, but they will have a timestamp of when you submitted the application. And as long as it's before the actual deadline, you'll be good to go. But again, looking at that My Colleges tab, again, I can't say that enough. I've advised students who took a look at that page, but they didn't take too good of a look because before they knew it, the date was there and the application deadline had passed and they weren't able to apply. So as you're doing your research, make sure that you're also making a plan on how to complete certain things by or preferably before the deadline. I'm asking under what section of the application will that be? Okay, give me 1 second. Let me see if I can log into mine. Let me see what other questions we have. Oh, just kidding. You say you found it. Okay, perfect. Specifically spring of junior year. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So Eva, let me go back up. So, oh, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't see the second part of that question as I answered the first part. My apologies. So students cannot apply to an institution until they are a senior in college, right? Sorry, a senior in high school. Sorry. Until they're a senior in high school. Applications open as early as August 1st during that academic school year. So students can start as early as then. Juniors, they can get started on like maybe creating an application or creating an account, doing research, and then their account information will roll over from junior year to senior year. But they, of course, as a junior, cannot submit any applications until after August 1st when all applications become live. Let me know if that answers your question. These are all great questions. Please continue to ask if you have them. If there are any questions in person, let me know and I'll stop reading the chat for a moment to make sure that we address questions there as well. Great question. what happens with the courses from semester 7 and 8? So the senior courses, right? So another thing we tell students, just because you have submitted your application does not mean that your senior year classes or grades do not count. You still got to come to school. You still got to get good grades. You still got to handle your business, right? All of these things are still very much the case, because an institution can decide that they want to take your admission away, right? If you are not kind of demonstrating that you are a good student throughout your high school career. So even as a senior, they are going to get those senior grades. When you graduate from high school, and usually sometime after graduation, your high school will make your final transcript available. And hopefully by this time, by the summer, you will have made your decision. The high school will ask you, who do you want us to send your final transcript to? Usually that is the institution that you have decided to attend, that you plan to attend in August or September, whenever the year starts. And then you'll give that information to your high school, and they'll send that over to the college or university, so that they can see, okay, this student, yes, they applied at the beginning of senior year. Maybe they applied September and we admitted them in November or something. But here's proof that they actually finished high school. They have their diploma, and they are in fact able to go to college. I took the AP Calc BC exam. Do I also need to report my AP Calc AB subscore as a separate score? So if you would like credit for those, yes, I will say when it comes to reporting an AP score, definitely talk to the admissions office of the institution that you're applying to, and see what or how those AP scores or CLEP test scores, whatever the test is, how those transfer for that institution. If you took BC, maybe they'll say, okay, we don't need AB because you clearly have BC, but maybe they'll say, no, we need both, so that we can check off both boxes. So for that one, I would definitely suggest speaking with someone in the admissions office to figure out what scores they would need, how they want them sent, and then of course what classes those will count towards on the college side. Great questions. Are there any more? I see someone typing.
Hi, I have a quick question, Aubriana. So I know that you talked about like the AP courses and whatnot that you could like input into the Common App. Would I, the student, like need to submit anything more than the fact that I took an AP course? Like, would I have to report my score?
Great question. So yes, if you have, well, I guess it depends on what your score was on that AP test, and if you think it's going to get you credit for a college course, right?
Okay.
For example, some schools, if you get a 3 on the AP test, they may give you credit for half of it, but that second half, you might have to get a 4 or a 5. If you want credit for it on the college side, you'll definitely need to go through, what is it, College Board, to send that test information or those scores from College Board to the institution, because yes, reporting it on your application is great, but they'll need proof of the actual score before they give you credit for it. Hope
Okay.
that
I think it does. So I mean, even though like I had taken AP classes, like would it be of importance, like even if, let's say like unfortunately I didn't get like a 3 or more or whatever the passing score would be, like do you recommend like still putting that just so I can say like I had taken AP classes?
I see. Yes, absolutely. So even if you don't want, so I guess I probably misunderstood that. If you
Sorry.
want credit, no, that's my fault. If you want credit for the course on the college side, you have to send your scores. If you don't
Okay.
think you'll have credit for the scores, or if you're like, yeah, I might have gotten the score, but it wouldn't hurt to take the class in college to get the refresher or the foundational information that'll set me up for success later on, putting that you took that as an AP class will show, that you took a class with a little bit more rigor that required more work, and it'll speak to you as a student. So yes, and then it will also even explain why your GPA may be weighted versus unweighted, showing that that was in fact an AP class. Great question.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Great questions. Keep them coming if you have them. I know we still have some time left. So next question is, how does transferring schools during 11th or 12th grade look? I will say it should not impact your college going or your post-secondary pathway. I think if you have started the research and you've kind of done some of the legwork, and really if you've made the decision that this is a pathway that you want to pursue, transferring schools doesn't matter. It doesn't play a part in anything. I think the biggest thing that I would suggest is if you're transferring around 11th or 12th grade, trying to see what classes you can take at the new school that maybe you couldn't take at the old school that would still benefit you in your pathway, right? Maybe it's doing a little bit more to ensure that you have a relationship with a counselor on campus so that when certain opportunities or scholarships or when you need assistance, you have that relationship or that rapport with them as a senior. I hope that answers your question. I'll also say I think the other big piece is just ensuring that you have transcripts for all of the institutions or all of the schools that you've attended. So I've definitely advised some students who maybe they've gone to 2 or 3 different high schools before graduating. You'll just need to contact those high schools and get individual transcripts, because even though that senior year transcript will include grades and courses from other high schools that the student attended, a lot of institutions, colleges, and universities prefer that they have the original from each school. So again, if you went to two different high schools, they would like to see one transcript from each high school. If a student took college courses at a community college or a university for dual credit, yes, those classes, those grades are going to be on their high school transcript, but they prefer it to come from the institution directly. Hope that answers the question. Any more questions? Of course. Thank you all. These are great questions. Essays, I think we're touching on a little bit of everything. Essays, when to get started, AP, transcripts, letters of recommendation, deadlines. We love it.
Yeah, I think we're good here in person. I'm just checking the chat, but I don't think I see anything else.
Great question. Is Common App connected to the FAFSA application? It is not. Department of Education and FSA are 2 separate entities. They're definitely federal. Common App is just, we're not on that level yet. But I will say the Paying for College page on our website will give you a lot of information. Some of it will link you directly to those websites to get more information. I will say if you follow us on the platforms and our handles, Common App is definitely figuring out how we can assist students through this new FAFSA and all the changes that are going to be happening these next few months. Things that students as well as their parents and counselors need to know to assist them. So no, we're not connected, but we're trying to, I guess, incorporate more of the financial aid or paying for college piece, because we know that is a super important aspect of the college application process. So a walkthrough of the new FAFSA is not yet available. The application is possibly, they're saying that they're hoping it'll be ready by December, but December's 31 days, so we're trying to figure out when in December. If you go to the Department of Ed, the FAFSA website, they'll have information there. I know that entities like NCAN, the National College Attainment Network, is working super closely with Department of Ed and FAFSA and FSA just to share the information and resources as they have them. But as of right now, there is nothing that will walk students through. It's really just more so communicating some of the small updates that they put in place so far. And I'll say it's September. We're still expecting quite a few more updates before the launch in December. I don't see anything else in the chat. I don't know if there's anything else on the in-person side.
Nope, nothing here.
Alrighty. I will say thank you all so much for allowing me to spend some time with you all this evening